All right, hi, this is Scott, lead designer for Oubliettes, Sorcery, and Reavers. And so we're doing a video series on system familiarization, starting with character creation. We had walked through two videos creating Ayla the Paladin. The third video got real janky. I'm not sure what happened, and it sort of collapsed near the end. And whoever gave me the thumbs down on that, thank you. Actually, it is very helpful. It is a good feedback system because I never would have really made it to the end of the video. It sounds weird, but I just assumed the video was in the bag and it was okay. However, it was not. I don't know what happened. It got cut off. But anyway, what we'll do is we're going to do a quick vid on character creation. I'm doing the screen sharing and going to go ahead and just walk through those steps again quickly. I appreciate your patience. For bearing with me on this one. So as we said, the first thing we asked you to do is to kind of get yourself a concept together. And this concept was going to be an Ædttani girl. She lived born and raised on the arid steppes in the southern land area of the world that I use, and it's also part of the lore we build into the system. Again, feel free to extract that lore. It should be completely your game environment that you want. However, she had an encounter when she was very young with an arisen foe of some kind, and that left her somewhat shaken, scarred, and maybe a little jaded, and very, very much angry, and with a high desire to completely destroy that foe. So we have that down. We know that I'm going to call her Ayla, and also know that she is going to be an Ædttan. She is from the arid steppes. So, and again, the culture that you choose for your character race to be from helps guide and mold what your languages are. She was from the Lodge. That indicates more civilized Ædttani peoples, closer to other civilizations, and so they get extra languages, and that's for every race are done up that way. And she is also going to be a paladin. We know that for sure. So the next thing's next. We're going to apply her attributes. Now it's a +2, a +1, a +1, a +0, a +0, and a -1. That's across the board. Everyone has the same stats. And those can change and shift based on race, based on, who knows what. So with that, I'm going to drop the +1 into her strength. Because she's a paladin, I'm going to drop the +2 into charisma. Charisma matters most for paladins. Strength is, as a warrior, she's going to need that. Constitution, I'll do a +1 because that will be important. And so it's +2, +1, +1. Intelligence will go +0. Wisdom, I want her brash and a little just like quick to act. She doesn't have that in check yet. She's just not a wise slayer of darkness. She wants to get in there and get in the fight and make a difference immediately. Not much for planning. Her faith will maintain her. And then we'll do dexterity also at +0. So now we'll mark expertise. Every class has two things they're expertise at. For her, as a warrior, all warriors and their disciplines have expertise strength, and the paladin has expertise charisma. Now the other disciplines they have our cataphract uses intelligence, our ranger uses wisdom, the berserker uses constitution, and the myrmidon uses dexterity. So you have these sub-disciplines in there. I'm going to go ahead and remove those because at a later time you may actually take expertise with another attribute to give you that edge. But right now, starting out, just not going to happen. So as an Ædttani, she gets to choose to raise her strength or her intelligence. She's okay with strength. That doesn't really matter to me, but I do want to raise her intelligence. I want to at least, she's going to dig into the archives, and she wants to be the research is going to be key to this, to learn who the different arisen are, where these foes lie. and a little bit of an edge on just knowing your enemy. And still with that -1 wisdom, it just doesn't matter. At the end of the day, she just wants a piece of them. So we've got our attributes set up, and we made sure that you've watched the other video, so you know all 6 attributes will always come into play for every character. It's just how the system is designed. So we got the race. Let's look at her benefits as an Ædttani. So the first thing she gets is she can cast Sense, but it is limited to only magical effects. That's a benefit of their race. They're very old spellcasters. The other benefit will be to the increase of the attribute, so it's awesome. Now her drawbacks. Let's see, attacks versus small creatures. They are at hindrance. Just her size alone, if she comes at something the size of like a halfling or fairies or anything in there, they'll be at hindrance. It's just very difficult for her people to take those foes on. And then another one is that we'll throw it on the screen. Well, you know what? Well, I won't put it on the screen. I'll just tell you that Ædttans cannot begin with expertise and dexterity. Even if the class were to indicate this, you're still not going to be able to claim the expertise and dexterity. You're going to have to overcome that with an advancement. It's just again, it's the size of the race. They're large of frame. I'm a big tall dude, well over 6 feet, and we're not exactly the most graceful of creatures. It's just how we are. So we'll look at our class talents next to see what a paladin gets. So the first thing a paladin gets is, let's see, they got lay on hands. Well, we'll do that one next. We'll go to righteous defense. So righteous defense, and that is once per day. Once per scene. Grant ally. Grant ally charisma to. Whoops, we'll use the shorthand to defense. So yeah, once per scene, and then if it would be home handy, the paladin can grant their charisma bonus to an ally and bolster that defense score or up. The next thing is a light in the dark, and again, feel free if you want to play anti-paladins or whatever. Obviously, you can just say a shadow of the sun, whatever. Make it thematic. We encourage this the theming and the trapping of everything about the system and the game, and the magic is no different. And neither should any of these abilities. Don't feel hard locked to them. So as a light in the dark, the paladin may grant leverage to any test to resist fear, illusions, charms, madness, or possession once per day. So that is a lot to say. So let's say once per day at leverage. I can't spell leverage. Leverage versus, let's just say versus mental. That's good shorthand for it. What's next? Next is lay on hands. Again, if you've seen the other vids, the lay on hands depends on the paladin's ethos compared to the person they're healing's ethos. They can do it a number of times per day equal to charisma. However, if the three categories of the chart are the target's ethos is either shared with the paladin, neutral to the paladin, or opposed to the paladin. If it's shared with the paladin, they get a lot of health back. If they're neutral to the paladin, they get some health back. It's not too bad, but it's not as great as if you're like-minded, like-hearted. If you're opposed, then a couple of things happen. You're going to get back a very minimal amount of health, and when the paladin does this, if it would profane their personal ethos, and it's a role-play moment, the paladin gets set at hindrance until they can prey on the situation at hand and gain guidance and challenge themselves and come to a better understanding. And that does take place with role-playing at the table again, and it becomes a moment where the GM and the paladin do a social conflict. The paladin is essentially just going, is having this dilemma with their own personal Jiminy Cricket to work around what happened. And they need to be able to overcome that. And if they can't, then they remain at hindrance until they pray again, and they get right with their deity or their ethos, their moral code, whatever. So let's see. It's just going to be special, and then it's going to be once. Actually, it's just equal to charisma, so it's once per day per charisma. So for her, she could lay on hands twice a day. What is next? Rebuke the Fell. So if a paladin does nothing for the turn, they present their holy symbol or do their prayers or give their wisdom. They can cause fell creatures such as Arisen, right, for instance, to make tests of wisdom, where they're essentially just at hindrance to all actions until someone attacks them and assaults them, and that sort of breaks that measure and that hold the paladin's word or faith has on the fell. The paladin also, if they're presenting and they have fell that have been rebuked, then if they choose to, instead of taking another action, they can actually deal damage equal to their charisma, or they can cause a number of the fell equal to their charisma to begin to flee away from them. And this has no limits. It's just one of those things that the paladin can do, and it's a lot of choice cycles. That one doesn't need a lot. It's just special again. Actually, fell, test of wisdom, or hindrance. Or hind, and then the rest of it, I would just be able to capture it. So we're gonna do this. Thought I put enough of these down. The next one is enemy of the darkness. So let's see, gains leverage versus the fell. Let's see, and then charisma plus charisma. Stretch this out a little bit. Plus charisma. Damage. All right, awesome. And then the last thing the paladin has to do is they have to come up with an ethos. This is the talent. It's called My Ethos is My Life. And then we talk you through the book a little bit and give you some guidelines, some concepts to look for, like honor, piety, unselfishness, courage, whatever. And then there's a sample one, and again, her sample is I may never strike a foe from afar, nor may I take the life of an innocent. I will obey the laws of the undying sun and bear true faith and allegiance to my Lord. And should she violate any of those, or she has to heal someone, or she chooses to heal someone who violates those, well, then that's a conversation gets to ensue. Yeah, fantastic. We make it a lot of fun. People, like I said, have responded really well to it. All right, so we have race and class. Let's see, not quite yet. So as a warrior, she gains a D8 for her class die. And again, the class die determines hit points, and it determines how much damage you do. Her starting expertise is a D4, like all. And the expertise, as you'll see, is when you roll the D20 to do a test or an attack or anything else, if you held expertise in the attribute or the weapon or whatever have you, you roll the D4 and then the attribute that governs whatever you're trying to do. So like if I'm trying to climb a wall and I have, for instance, Ayla, she has expertise and strength, so trying to climb a wall, but not just to climb a wall, but trying to scramble up quickly and get away from an enemy who's seeking her out, or trying to avoid a trap, something like that, she would roll. And she would roll a D20 plus the D4 because she has expertise in it, and then a +1 for her strength modifier, always seeking a 13 or better. She has 0 experience points. Hit points always start out at the maximum is what we suggest, just because of the system. You don't gain hit points unless you choose to, as we discussed. The hit points you start with are the hit points you're going to have until you choose that your character gains in health. It's just how we wanted this system. And even when you do gain the health, it's not going to be a lot. We wanted our battles quick, that swift, violent, and extremely deadly on all fronts. And no, I know some things are like, well, the monsters have more of an advantage. They don't. It's how it's written, and you'll see once you get everything in hand and you see some of the sample combats. It's not PCs can handily go through many of the lower rank creatures, and it really is the balance of the monster die. So hit points for her are going to be D8 plus Constitution. So she has 9. Her composure is, again, how well you handle yourself in a discussion or an argument. Social conflict is what we call it. Every social conflict will have a frustration level attached to it, and that represents the damage dealt against you. So when you're doing the social conflict and you make that test, we don't want a stagnant system where it's like, oh, give me a persuasion. Okay, cool, you pass or you fail, and that's it. We don't want that. So there are 3 tests. Sometimes they can go 5 tests for a very complicated one. Usually it's 3 tests, and when you're rolling, you do your bit, a little bit of role play, or you can just say, well, here's I want to convince the guard by using our shared military experience to let him, or to allow us to move past. Okay, great. How are you doing that? Well, I'm going to use charisma and kind of like, hey man, we're good buddies from the war, that kind of thing. Great, roll it again, 13 or better, good to go. You fail that, depending on the frustration level of the encounter, then you're going to be hit with damage. And when you hit 0 composure, that means the social conflict is done, because your character has now, you've gotten to the point where you burned out and you're done. Your patience is over, and you are no longer capable of carrying on that conversation because it's going to go nowhere, and you realize that. They reset every scene, so you could be as 0 composure or 1 composure, but that's all that happens to you. So I did roll hers. Unfortunately, she rolled really well. Fortunately or unfortunately, she rolled really low. She has 3 composure, which kind of fits with my idea of how I would role play her anyway, where she's quick to act, and that shows in that composure of 3. You definitely do not want her having conversations with people. Let's see, that's her armor. Her defense, we'll do all that later. Let's see. So we have done that. Next we'll do the augur, and hers was the crown. It's a D100 roll, and there's 14 different results you can get. So hers is the crown, and the crown allows her to once per day leverage at social conflict. I'm going to stretch this out because, all right. So yeah, so at least once per day, if she had to get in an argument, she could use that to her advantage and make a roll count. Let's see. So she comes from the steppes. So that means as an Ædttan, she speaks Ædttani. She speaks trade, which is the common pidgin across the known world. And she chose Feltongue for her other language because it allows her to communicate effectively with the thing that she hates the most. Let's see. We'll do her motivations. So seeks, covets, devoted, and foible. Seeks is the thing that she openly seeks and people know about. So glory over the Arisen. That's what she wants. She wants to destroy all the Arisen. So that's easy enough. It's probably all she would talk about incessantly. Now covets. Covets, from the last time, and we'll do this now, part of the outfitting is I rolled really well for her coin that she starts the game with. So secretly, oh sorry, that's her foible. So her covet is, look at my notes, is recognition. She secretly wants recognition for her deeds. She'll pretend like she doesn't, but it's very important to her that she's recognized by everyone around her, that she's done good things and made a difference. She is devoted to the cult of the undying sun. And yeah, sorry, apologies, I should look at the notes. But her foible is actually coin. She does not like the idea of not having enough on her to sustain herself, even though piety, tithing is sort of part of her ethos. I could work that into it, and I think it would be more interesting. But yeah, she really is not a fan of being poor. She grew up on the steppes, so she knows what it's like to not have much. So when we go to the next thing we do is we go to the quartermaster side of the house, and the outfitting. So let me load up the quartermaster. Hyperlinks are functioning, so that's awesome. So there's two ways of doing it again. You can choose to go through 4 steps, and they're going to give you a set order of kit to choose from, and then some coin, or you can just take 200 coin and buy whatever you can get with 200 coin. For her, I'm going to choose to go the first route. We're going to walk through the steps. So step 1 is you get the choice of armor and a weapon, or just heavy armor. So for her, I'm going to give her scale. She does have expertise with it. And I am going to give her also a shield. So the armor doesn't do anything for defense. The shield does, and dexterity does. So defense is equal to 10 plus dexterity plus a shield. So her defense is 10, and it is a 12 with her shield. Get that on one line if I can. Okay, awesome. Now damage reduction is where armor counts. So scale male has a damage reduction of 3. So anytime she's looking at taking damage, it'll subtract 3 automatically unless it's damage dealt from a warbow or a crossbow or a war pick or a couple other specialized weapons who are supposed to do that. Speaking of weapons, let's go down here. So I'm going to give her a spear, and she is an expert with it. And the chart tells us that the spear's initiative die for melee purposes, and because she won't attack from afar without violating her ethos. So initiative with the spear is a D8. And her attack bonus is, as you can see from this character sheet, melee is a D20 plus dexterity plus expertise plus other modifiers if they were applicable. She doesn't have a dexterity bonus, but she does hold expertise in the weapon, so she gets to add a D4. And her damage, again, as a warrior, she gets to add her strength, because warriors are trained to apply their strength. It's not just big brutes flipping around bars thinking they're tough. She's actually learned how to apply her strength. So her damage is equal to her class die, and then it's +1 for strength. And then the range or effects, the spear could be thrown, yes. However, she won't throw it. But the spear's primary effect is that she can sweep close, meaning all close foes. And that grants leverage to those foes. So if she chooses to sweep, she can do damage to anyone around her. But doing that, if it doesn't drop them, then they're going to she grants leverage to every foe that still stands on that next round. Again, a lot of our game design choices are, we want to put as many choices as possible in the character's hands, or the player's hands, for their characters. And say it's all give and take. That's just how combat is. You should make tactically sound decisions. And I'm also going to give her a war sword, which is our fancy, nice way of saying a bastard sword. The initiative will be a D8 on that. And again, the attack is +D4 because she has expertise for being a paladin, or a warrior, rather. And the paladin doesn't preclude. Let's see. There are some warrior disciplines, just so everyone knows, that they only gain expertise with certain weapons. They can use anything. Anyone can use anything, but you only gain the expertise when you're using weapons. And some of those disciplines have very specific weapons drilled into them, but you still get a wide range of choice. It's just, you know, it's thematic. So again, she does a D8 plus 1. And for the war sword, it's interesting. If she is without, oh, sorry, make that smaller, without shield, plus 1 defense, plus 1 damage. I knew it was going to do that as soon as I wrote defense too big. Plus 1 damage. And again, she holds expertise. I'm not giving her another weapon, and you'll see why here in a second. Well, you won't see why, because, well, we could do it, I guess, in a different way. Last but not least, her coin. I rolled a 12, so she starts with, the coin is D12 plus charisma. Charisma, again, acts like luck sometimes, so it's 14 coins. She has all the coin. And, you know, again, her foible. So I would really enjoy playing that if I were, you know, the person playing this would be like, oh, yeah, a greedy paladin. I'm just trying to church this up a little bit. And so for the inventory piece, part of also that design is you get your weapons, you get your shields. You can take a kit. So I would give her the initiate kit, which is sort of like a religious kit. And it comes with a few items, and those items take up. And so what we'll do is I'm going to copy this. And normally I draw the pictures of everything. But how this is supposed to work is every character has 1, 2, 3, has these 9, these 3 here to use for inventory items. Every item will use at least one of these little blocks. Her spear takes up 3 blocks, for instance. Right? Find some way of doing it. That's why I draw it in. I'm not much of an artist, but I get to say, all right, the spear takes up 3 blocks. Okay. And then her sword also takes up 3 blocks. Now, these this row and this row are if you have a high strength. So if you have a plus 1 strength, you get these 3. If you have a plus 2 strength, you get these 3. If you're wearing light armor, you lose these on the bottom. If you're wearing medium armor, you lose these across here. And if you wear heavy armor, you lose this last row. If you do not have the requisite strength and you go one item into one of the blocks, right? So your 13th item, or if you have a high strength right here, however you do it up, you go at hindrance automatically to all actions because you're now encumbered. We wanted an encumbered system that was fun and easy to track and made a little bit of sense. You don't get to carry all the swords of Vorpal slaying, dragon hunting in the world. You just don't. You're not gonna. We like a little bit of verisimilitude. Now with the rest of this, let's see. Bring this down here, and so like for instance in this votive kit, and this hopefully works. So the votive kit her initiate kit has a votive, right? Votive. So those are her little prayer people. So she uses to break out and say her daily genuflections, if you will. I'm going to copy the sword one. I'm going to put it here. And I'm going to put armor and scale. But we're not done, because like I said, scale is a medium armor, so she loses those immediately. So you can see she's already down to, now she only has the normal 12 blocks regardless, and two of those whole rolls are taken up by that. So what else are we going to get out of this initiative? The initiative kit. The initiates kit. Blessed oil. All right, that's actually important. I'm going to write it small. Bless oil. Right, whichever, it works. Move it down anyway. Okay. And let's see. What else? So votives, blessed oil, her holy symbol. Actually, it's pretty important. Her symbol. And she has her fire starter kit. So flint, steel, and those take up just one spot. Almost everything takes up one spot. Oh, I know it. She has a shield, and her shield also takes up one spot. Because of how the shield is and go across the body, it's not really in the way, but it doesn't, it's heavy, but it want to be a little convenient. And what else is in the initiate kit? So candles, yeah, and food and water. So right now the candles are going to be more important to her than the food and water. Food and water she could be expected to gain from any of the cult holdings or even a temple of the sacred flame. So candles, small bundle of 3, and that's it. Her inventory is full. She could try to carry something else, and she listed on a character sheet and say, "Well, I'm also have my 5 days of rations." Okay, great. Well, now you're going to be a hindrance to all actions. We're not going to go that route. Capturing the cast and the sense spell, we could do that on this next page, right? Her casting expertise. She uses the D4 because it's innate. She uses charisma to cast, like a mage would. She has no foci, no talismans, no fetishes, and no damage reduction to spells. So we can write sense, and because we always encourage the trapping of the spells. Let's see, she'll go with one of her Ædttani gods. And we'll go Dipther's eyes. So sense has a range of far. You can extend that out at a pretty good pace. The duration is charisma in rounds. So it would last 2 rounds on her case. And the target is, well, it's just it's an aura, if you will. Pretty much anywhere she looks, or stretch her senses out. And it says you determine the presence but not location of one of the following living creatures, objects, magical auras. So determine presence, and we're going to say direction. We're not going to go location. We're going to go direction. Part of the Ædttani thing is that they're honed in on it, so she can tell you, like, all right, well, it's in front of us, it's to my right, it's to my left, but she can't tell you exactly where it would be. They still have to have other means of doing that. Of magical, let's actually enchantments. And back to the main character sheet, and that is everything. She is completely playable at this time. So leave comments below, let us know what's going on. Appreciate the watching the video. Not sure how long it is, I'll find out here in a second. Thanks, bye-bye.